Welcome to the Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy, the free podcast for motivated teachers and school leaders who want to inspire their students and school community in literacy learning. Make sure you subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast player, and for more amazing literacy resources, check out the show notes provided with every episode.
Hi, I'm Sharon and I'm host of the Teacher's Toolkit for Literacy. In every Toolkit episode, we bring you specific resources, tools, strategies, tips, techniques to help you in your job as a teacher of literacy. Firstly, we acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. Welcome newcomers to the Facebook group and to the podcast. We love hearing the diverse reasons why teachers across the world are joining us. So much deep and creative literacy work going on in schools. Some of the recent comments we've had, one of my favourites we've had over the past week, I'd just like some inspiration and support. And I think I hear that very thing often in the work that I'm doing, that, you know, we're all looking for not only inspiration, but I think that big word support. Another comment, the podcast is a wonderful resource. I'm currently completing my Masters of Teaching, and it's great to listen to on the train, and that's from a pre-service teacher. Another one from a coordinator. I'm a newly appointed literacy coordinator at a secondary school and would like to learn about new ideas and good practices. And we know that whilst we're gearing a lot of our podcast to probably primaries, there is plenty for our secondary teachers to tap into and make connections with across the content areas. And lastly, I'd like to be part of a group that considers the latest research, resources to improve literacy outcomes, approaches to improving literacy, information about professional learning and reading, and how schools are improving literacy outcomes, and more. So there's someone looking for a whole lot of stuff, and I think that's one of the things that we really try to do through the podcast is bring a whole lot of information, not just from ourselves, but from a whole community of excellent practitioners out there in the field. And today will be no different. So if you're not a member of the Teacher's Toolkit Facebook group, we'd love you to join and introduce yourself to the group. But right now, bringing you one of our fabulous expert practitioners and colleagues, we welcome to this podcast, one called The Power of Key Words. We welcome Rob Vingerhoets.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Yes, some lovely comments on your work too. Well done. That's good.
Yes. Oh, and you know, I just love that. You know that this is an avenue where we can keep conversations and dialogues going within the profession, because as we know, even though we're in schools and we're with a lot of people, sometimes we can feel a bit isolated, you know, in our own profession, in our classroom. You know, we're lucky if we get to a staff room to chat with other teachers sometimes.
Yes, it's a consultancy work is sometimes like a bit like working in a vacuum. You actually don't know a lot of times, especially if it's short-term work, what impact you've had on a school or individuals within that school. You only hope that you've had a positive impact, but often you don't know. So when you get feedback, it's perhaps we should be beyond needing feedback and praise, but you know what, I do. So I love it. So I think we all need a positive reinforcement. So well done to you for that.
Fantastic. So, Rob, we haven't mentioned, because I'm assuming, you know, I'm saying welcome back to you, Rob. But Rob, you work as a maths consultant across Australian schools, mostly. Would we say mostly in Victoria?
Yeah, mostly
yes.
Victoria.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And I know you leave the state at times to, cross some waterways to either work Tasmania. I know you've worked with quite a few schools in Tasmania.
Yeah, a lot of schools in Tas, but a lot of
here in South Australia.
Yeah, yes, was be pre the Rona
Yes.
years. Doing a lot of work in Tas, a lot of work in Canberra, a lot of work in Adelaide, and it's slowly coming back. I'm leaving off to Ho Chi Minh City later in term 4 in November, so international stuff is starting again. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it's good.
Great to be. Great to be on the ground and working side by side with teachers, isn't it?
Yes, who are doing it hard. So it's a tough time in education. I presume it's the same in South Australia as it is here in Vic. It's the just the shortages of staff and the pressure, CRTs and teachers not being well. So lots falling back on classroom teachers and up the chain. So it's tough time. So everybody enjoys their holidays coming up.
Yeah, yes. We certainly need that opportunity for some recharge and just some time for self.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. All right, so today we've chosen one of the terms that you use a lot as part of our title. We've called it the power of key words. And we've really, we always like to sort of start a podcast by thinking about, well, what is it? Like, why do we bring this to listeners? And so what might be the teaching struggle that we certainly, I come across, and you would definitely be coming across with your work. But the teaching struggle often relates to, the ways that we get students to build and to access vocabulary and build their knowledge about words. But within lessons, it's sometimes we feel like the struggle is, I've got to do some vocabulary work, and so I'm going to have to carve out, a lesson time to, focus on that. But of course, any of these things siloed in that way just don't fit into the curriculum as well, and neither do they transfer then for our students, where students can see the link. So that's one of the things that I think is one of the struggles, is this ways to access vocabulary and build knowledge about words within the context of the lesson. We also want to know how to teach vocabulary to really empower students to not only build knowledge around words, but to then be using them as readers or writers, users, thinkers. And so we've got you here today, Rob, to really help us think a little bit more about how can we use an interest in vocabulary and the power of key words to make a difference in our teaching, not just on an every now and then basis, but of course the power for you with the use of keywords is that it's an everyday thing. So you're really bringing it into the everyday. So me having done a little bit of a why the teaching struggle, what I'd love you to share with us, Rob, is talk with us through how you use the idea of, well, first of all, keywords. What do we mean when we say keywords?
They're the words that are key. Yeah. I don't know. I just came up with the title. This is all. I don't know if the listeners of your podcast have heard things I've done before. I'm not a professor. I'm not attached to a university. Just in my work, and in my teaching career, there was this huge thing in Victoria. This is learning intentions land over here at Lille. It's just learning intentions land, and I don't know the philosophy behind them. I have no argument about, just none. That philosophically they're very sound. We should be letting kids know what we intend for them to discover or find out. It's just that they're so dry. They're either way too complex or they're way too simple. Sometimes they actually give away the whole thing of the discovery element of the lesson's gone because you're already told the kids what you intend for them to find out. Well, okay, well then there's nowhere else to go. So I think it's blocked off discovery. I found them so awkward. And they didn't cover the vocab that was actually in the lesson. The content that was in the lesson wasn't always reflected in the intention. So.
Okay, so there's the key. Well, no pun intended, but that's the key to it, isn't it? That even across schools we know vocabulary is important, but then how do we? And this is where you've really developed just this it's a routine that you bring into each of your maths lessons. How keywords can become an integral part of the lesson rather than a siloed lesson at another time to deal with vocabulary. You bring it in as a living and breathing, being used element of the lesson.
Yeah.
So let's say we're starting off with a maths lesson, and what might it be?
The lessons could be a little warm-up activity. So this starts not from the main body of the activity. This starts from your tune-in, launch, warm-up, whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
I might already have some key words. So the placement of this, like we're doing a podcast, so you need to visualise this. So if you've got a whiteboard, I'm a right-hander, so I've got a section, not a skimpy, scungy little section. We've got 40 centimetres wide by about 1.5 metres, or as long as or as wide as my whiteboard is.
Yeah.
It needs to be a generous part, and in some classrooms that's very hard because of your limited whiteboard space. But give as much space as you can because this stuff is very, very significant to kids. So picture a whiteboard. I've got the heading keywords. It's at least 40 centimetres by at least 1 metre. So because I'm regularly going to fill that space with keywords. I might already have a couple written up. Some I don't tend to, but there's nothing wrong with having some words already up there.
All right, so so those words have been chosen by the teacher, and maybe some words they may have come up before, or we've got them there to activate some thinking, or what?
This is if it's a lesson on subtraction, I might already have subtract with the symbol. This is crucial because this should be happening prep to year 12 with the symbol. So there's your classic horizontal line. Underneath that subtract, I might have takeaway, same symbol. I might have the word minus, same symbol. I might have the word difference, same symbol. So the kids just get this in-your-face message. Well, there's 3 different words. They must all mean the same thing because they've all got the same symbol next to them. Yeah. This symbol next to the word thing is incredibly important. I don't expect a kid in a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old to know what TRIANGLE says. But if you draw a triangle next to those letters, that kid knows that word's a triangle. It's a simple, straightforward association.
Yeah.
And it's vital. Most kids are not held by the mathematics of maths. They're held back by the terminology of maths.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can empower them, and language has always been empowering. Language is the key to freedom. It's been since time began. Language is the key.
Yes.
So we've got to put language and terminology into kids, and it's not hard.
No, and if we take out maths, put in science, geography, writing, art, music, whatever, we can be building this bank of keywords. Now, you don't spend a lot of time talking about each of these words as they go up necessarily.
No, because they tend to happen as I go along. They're in context. So a kid might say, "Oh, Mr. B, I added this and this," and I go, so what you added 10 and 10 and 10. Well, that's repeated addition. So I just go and write repeated addition, and this kid goes, that's my stuff. He's just summed up what I did, and he's put that in the key words. So it's a dynamic thing. They're not a list that you write up at the start or the end of the lesson. That's the beauty of them, and the benefits of them over a learning intention, that you can build on the keywords as the lesson develops. So you start them in the warm up. They can happen during the introduction. They can happen during the student activity, and the key to this, and you've seen this with my work, Sharon. I like to finish my lesson with a reflection.
Yes.
So it's what did you find out today? And I've got many of these that people are welcome to get on to my website. They're on my website. But and then it's often the key, and the emphasis of this is no recounts. I want to know what you found out. I don't want to know what you did because I was here. Like, I know what you did.
Yeah.
And so what did you find out? So I have a whole lot of different interesting, like engaging reflection activities. But the kids will often say, but what do I write about? And I just point them straight at the keywords. And always the same effect. They go, oh, yeah, we do know what to write about. And so, and whether they're preps or year 10, same thing. Oh, yeah, we do know what to write about. So you get your reward for putting them up when you ask your kids to reflect on their work. Like, you're getting an echo of the whole lesson that way. And the kids are articulating in writing or verbally, because they, for some activities, especially in the lower grades, the kids are allowed in a verbal context to tell me what they found out using the key words. So, yeah. And the point you made, that, look, I love it when a school everybody in the school commits to it. The art teacher uses keywords, the phys ed teacher uses keywords, the science teacher uses keywords. So the kids are getting them all the time. It must be great. You're just walking around, just building your vocab. And they love it. In math terms, kids love using the maths words, like calibration, commutative property, like listen to me, how smart am I? And I know what it means, you know. So.
Yeah, so the commitment to, and I think that's a really good point, the commitment to it across a school, but also a commitment to the anchoring of these words. And that's why you said it's so important to have a space. You use whiteboard. For those people who go, I actually haven't got a whiteboard in my room, chart paper, a dedicated space where it's anchored and we can come back to it. I know sometimes you'll start, because you can continue with a keywords chart, can't you?
Yeah, I think it's one of the questions, and I bet you somebody's already thinking of it. To the thousands of listeners out there in podcast land, that's something. But what do I do with them after I've written them up on the board? Because it might. Well, when this was in my own classroom, I actually don't put up a heading of maths keywords. I just had the heading keywords because I fully intended to use them for my inquiry topic. Like, what do you know about sustainability? Let's get some words from you. Or words would come up during our research on sustainability. So I wanted to use them for other things. So I would copy my keywords, my maths keywords, onto a chart. Nothing schmick, just a pretty rough chart. I might have had a heading, addition, subtraction, and these are our addition, subtraction words. So I just copied them straight from the whiteboard onto the chart. It's a bit of double handling, but it's time well spent, and that chart can go up in your maths word wall or, some designated area so the kids know where to track for those words. And tomorrow, I would have rubbed off my words for sustainability, and they're on another chart. Tomorrow, if some of those words were the same, that's fine. This is my third lesson on addition and subtraction, so some of those words would go up there again because it's still like part of my learning intention. But, of course, I don't repeat the words on the chart. I might just add, I just check the words from the whiteboard, check them against the words on the chart. Here's a new word. Okay, so I'm going to put that word in over there. And so I'll add any keywords, but and that way it's vital. In the 5, 6s, 7, 8s, the teachers sometimes have the kids copy the keywords into the back of their maths book, like a glossary of terms. I wouldn't do that in lower grades. It tends to take too long, but it's certainly upper primary, secondary. I've seen that happen a few times. I never did it with my own grades, but I like it. It's so the kids they copy down the words with the symbol. Crucial that you put the symbol in there as well, so that it always reminds them what the word is. And so the kids have got their building, active, alive sort of glossary of terms that they keep adding to throughout the year.
Yeah. And I suppose when, if you have got them on a, if you're not charting them, anywhere sort of in a more permanent fashion, that's kind of like the child's equivalent way of charting some of those things so that they've got their own anchor of those words. Because, of course, these words, a lot of these words can then be used at other times for exploration around words. And I'll so that if we're talking about what I did mean to do at the beginning of the podcast, which I completely forgot about doing, was to just talk about, in terms of vocabulary, the work of, or the research of Beck and McGowan and Fastrup and Samuels really talk about there being four elements or four components for teaching vocabulary. And the four are, one is providing a rich and varied language experiences. And right here in maths, during the lesson, it's within the experience that those words are being noticed and collected.
Yep.
So all within context.
Very much so.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely right. That was beautifully stated, young Sharon.
Thank you. Number two is teach individual words. Now, that might not be during, let's say it's a maths lesson, that might not happen right there and then, except if a child can understand more about the concept because we actually teach them more about that word. And maybe it's to do with the fact that it might be, let me pick a word like multiplication. Well, what's that got to do with? Comes from multiply. So, well, if we know what multiply means, what might multiplication mean? So, that word talk, that teaching about words, it might happen then, or it might happen.
Look, it does. It's look. Well, when you get back to the point, Sharon, but look, there's like with little kids the other day, I was working with some preps, and there was I forget their names. But they were twins. And I made a big deal. I said, "Gee, you two dudes look a lot alike." And they're twins, Mr. B. So I wrote up twins in the key words, and I said, "Look, check it out. Look, it starts with TW, and look at the word two." And the kids, they're so good. Like twin starts with two starts with two, so of course there's two in twins. Capacity. Sometimes teachers, I struggle with capacity. I don't know the difference between volume. I said, well, capacity just comes from the word capable. Like you have a capacity to be a good person. This container is capable of holding stuff, whereas a brick isn't. Like it's already full. Yeah. But this glass has capacity because it's capable of holding. And people go, I never thought of that. So it's a lot of our maths words have an origin that's actually makes things more clear. So at that point, you actually can really explore the meaning of some of our maths terms and just go, gee, it's not that hard, really. We get too close to them as teachers. Yeah. Some of our words we're just too close to, and we need to step back. And place value is actually extremely straightforward concept. You put a digit in a new place, and so it's got a new value. 75 is 75. If I turn those two digits around, it's 57. The 7 used to be in the tens and now it's in the ones. It's gone to a new place. So it's got a new value. Yes. And that's when I put "der" in the key words, D and 4 R's. And I tell the kids, look, that's "der." It's actually, it comes from, don't use it in the yard. It's actually a mathematical term. It comes from the French "der," meaning anything that is clearly obvious. Which is totally, it is actually totally made up. Actually, I'm a year 10 kid. I said, is that French? Sorry, I just made that up. But I have fun in the keywords. I'm forever putting yeah, nah, in the keywords, because a lot of things in maths are, there are, I like what you were doing there. Nah, it's not the right answer, but how you were going about it was right. So, there's a lot of situations in maths that are actually, and it's a great fun term, and the kids love hearing it and using it. So, enjoy the keywords. Bloody teaching shouldn't be so serious. It just, really, you're working with kids. Have some fun. And I have fun in the key words.
So number 4 in the list, Rob, is foster word consciousness, model and encourage a genuine interest in words.
Yes.
So there we are.
We are.
So
we're always kids walking around going, that is clearly obvious.
People may be saying, what was number 3? So number 2 was about teaching individual words, but then number 3, teach those word learning strategies about what are the parts, what are the roots that have meaning, what words are related to it. So in that very... Sorry.
Yeah. So no, I love where you were going, Sharon. But then these fit the maths. Like it was, I was doing a video today, and it was one of the topics on the video that I was asked to do was like AM PM. Now kids forever think it's got something to do with M as morning. Like and M doesn't stand for morning, and it actually comes from 2 Latin words. It's ante meridian, and ante means before. Like antenatal and these sorts of words, and meridian is actually a word for noon. It's the word for the ancient Roman word for noon. Particularly means, like specifically means before noon, and post like post-mortem, postscript, means after. Meridian there again. So and the kids go, oh, that's so straightforward now that we know.
Yeah.
But unless you've done Latin or you've studied the aspects of it, you may not know that. And so it's so that goes to the term, Sharon, but that's what it goes to. It's the heart of what the word means and where it comes from and its origin. It can help with maths a lot.
Yes, and then it spills over into other things, because right there. Okay, we use those, we got to understand what post or ante means, in this situation. They go, oh my goodness, that I've just found it somewhere else. So, all of this word interest and, looking at the strategies for, looking at the meaning parts of words, doesn't matter what subject area we're doing it in, but that's the power of it, that if we're doing it across different parts of the day, then we can make connections across there so that what we found out here, oh my goodness, I can apply that elsewhere. So it's never feeling like we are only ever teaching something in isolation and singularly. It should always be about any work around words spills across everything. And I think it's really important for our students to know that it isn't just about, here's all of these things have to do with maths and all of these things have to do with this and all of these things have to do with that. That's not how language works. It's across everything.
Yeah. No, it's not how learning works, and that's not how life works. Life is messy.
Yes.
Learning, but we can keep wanting to put it in boxes because that's how curriculums come across, and that's just such an old model of teaching that we're still sort of stuck with. But in the end, it's messy. It's the key in my area, in my field of maths, is embrace the messiness. You can't separate addition and subtraction. You can't separate addition and multiplication. You can't separate multiplication and area. You can't separate analog time and fractions. Like these things just cross over. Don't fight it. Like embrace it, because kids actually, the more they see a content area in a different context and a crossover context, the more they understand it.
That's it. So there's just those 4 things that we would call, the major components of teaching vocabulary. I just think that's this little model of having key words, not model, routine.
It is a routine. It's really well described, Sharon, and it needs to be a routine. Some people listening to the podcast of the thousands might want to have a try at this tomorrow, and you'll probably be okay. But the art of this one, and you've summed it up, is it needs to be a routine. And you'll have bad days with the keywords. I can tell you now, you will have bad days. You'll either not do them, or you'll go, oh, how could I forget? Oh man, I forgot those 5 words. And don't worry about it. Like, just persist.
Yeah.
If you persist, I'll promise that it'll become habit. But if you give up and have a bit of maths sook and say, oh, I'm not doing keywords anymore, look, if you hang in there with them, because they are a commitment, but once they become routine, you never look back. And my little saying for it is, if you hear it, write it. So if you hear yourself say a maths term, write it. And then sometimes I write ones up that haven't got any relevance to the lesson. Like, I was doing a lesson with some kids the other day, and so I said, okay, I need you to be horizontal and vertical came up. And they really didn't have anything. It was a number lesson, but the horizontal and vertical and dodecahedron came up because we were looking at a 50-cent coin or something. So, and I wouldn't put those words on the chart, but I'm putting them in the key words because I've just added some new terms to the kids.
Yes.
Horizontal, obviously I had a line that was flat and a vertical, a line that was going to the roof, and the kids go, oh right, I've got horizontal and vertical now, thanks, you've added to my words. But it's to become routine, you just have to stick with it and plough through the days when you don't do a good job of it, and just know that you'll get there.
Yeah, and I think that part about, that it's not about spending a whole lot of time talking about each word. It's about getting it up on the chart, and it's within context.
Yep.
And we're actually using it right now. We're exploring it. It's not that now we've got to find out, what does that word mean? These words are words in action.
Yeah, that symbol. Yeah, that symbol is so important.
Yes, that it's married to the.
Yeah, it's a symbolic language, so it's married to, the symbol is married to the letters that form the word.
Yes.
If I said equal to you, Sharon, what symbol did you see there?
Yep, one horizontal line above the other.
The other one, exactly. It's like, depending on what your maths experiences are. If I said pi, as in pi, I see that symbol. It's like the Egyptian looking thing that's got the weird looking end, and it's a square root. Oh yeah, I know that symbol. So it's a richly symbolic language, and we're lucky. And where the word doesn't have a matching symbol, I do an example. Like place value doesn't have a symbol, so I might do an example like 38 is a 30 and an 8, like something like that, just so combination doesn't have is a mathematical term, but it doesn't have a symbol. So then I just do an example of what a combination a kid gave me. So, but we're lucky; it's a symbolic language.
Yes, and of course that's completely necessary for all that work within maths. We are seeing it both in a word form and in a symbol form.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like the dual language, and so we need to know, what the two, but that each of those, whether it's in word form or symbol form, that there is meaning to that. And so therefore, getting to the meaning is the whole crux of it.
If you understand it, so you know the meaning, you're likely to then be able to apply it.
Yes.
And that application could be in a reflection activity, or it could be in when you're articulating the maths that you did in a problem or in a task the next day. And you say, oh, Mr. D, I use that distributive property to work this one out. Or I remember when we did this. So this is I use this word calibrations because they're the little marks between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. It's got 5 calibrations, and that 4 calibrations, and then the 5th one. So, and just to hear a kid go calibrations, that's a word they picked up from yesterday. Like, kids, who doesn't want to sound smart?
Yes.
Kids want to sound smart, and just say, not only can I say it, I can use it in context. Have a look at me, So
use it with meaning. That it's and that tells us immediately. They're not just saying it because if you know how to use it, it means you understand what it means.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Rob, just when you do the keywords, how much? So you're definitely listening for words that you would say or students would say.
Yep.
Do you find when we were talking about getting into the routine of using it, of getting those keywords going every day, Do you see students kind of driving the routine?
Kids, they love the keywords. I can tell you now, it astounds me how much they actually value them.
Yeah.
So often a kid will say, if I've forgotten a word, because sometimes I might be at one end of the classroom and I'm not near the whiteboard, and the kid says something to me, and I'm, oh, man. Actually, I use it like the pool room. I just go, that's going in the keywords. And so, but sometimes I get distracted. Then the kid might just say, Mr. B, you didn't put my word in the key words. But a year 8 girl hung back from a lesson I did with some year 8s out at northern suburbs in Melbourne. Tough school. And she didn't have to stay back and say anything to me, but she was a worldly girl, and she just stayed back and just said, hey, Mr. V. It's actually Mr. Rob, but hey, Mr. Rob. And I go, yeah, what is it? And she just said, hey, the key words, they're you know what? Yeah, they're really good. And she just walked on. Well, she's embarrassed, but she just wanted to tell me. And that's from a year ago in a tough school, and it was like, she got, oh, I understand this lesson. I've got language now. It was, and that look at it happens regularly with the primary kids. They just, they value them. They know they're important. They do.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that's one of the key pieces about you saying that you dedicate a space to it. And once you dedicate a space to it, even if
you're giving it input, that's right.
Yes, and even if we as teacher haven't remembered it, because I have definitely been in situations, Rob, where I might have been in a class, doing some maths work at some points. If keywords is up there and I haven't started with it, someone will start that off in the class. If it's part of their routine, if that's there for them, they don't want to be without that. That's for so many children. It's such a powerful anchor and such a powerful way, as you talk about, to start articulating what is it that we need to be thinking about, that we're going to be, or that we know we're going to be using today.
Yeah, exactly,
so,
Sharon.
Yeah.
Dedicate a space to it, whether, as you said, whether it's some chart paper or it's a designated section of your whiteboard, so the kids know and trust that the keywords are always going in that spot.
Yes,
Make it as easy as it can to flow from your general whiteboard area to the chart. So if you're like, just simple things, if you're a left-hander, put them on the left-hand side so you can just move from there to there and move 30 centimetres to write a keyword up. With the older kids, get them to go out to the board and put the keyword up. The kid who came up with calibrations, I just said, oh man, go and write that up on the keyword. Turns out it didn't spell it correctly, but that didn't matter.
No.
But it was, I just missed an L, so it was pretty good effort actually. But so it was. So if you're in the right grade levels, get the kids to put up the keywords. Ownership.
Yeah, and I love that when you do, you're in a lesson and at the end you notice a little something extra on the board that wasn't there before, when the child who hasn't actually said it out loud what the word is but has just gone, do you know what, I think this goes up as well. You just love it, don't you? That interaction with it. And that's what it is about our students being a part of that. It's not something that's happening to them. It's something that's happening to catch thinking and to represent words and symbols, the thinking that we are doing within this lesson. So
it's a beautiful summation. Like it's if you were the numeracy coordinator or the AP or the principal, and I often think it's a brave teacher who doesn't put up a learning intention but does key words. But if I was that numeracy coordinator, I go, I wonder what Sharon did today, and go into your room, you're not there, and I go, I wonder what she did for maths, and then I'd look around and I'd see your key words, Sharon, and I go, wow. Product, multiplication, times, lots of brackets. What's this inverse operation, division? sharing. There's a random word like diagonal. I don't know where that came up, but it must have come up somewhere. And you go, there was a lot in that maths lesson.
Yeah.
And so any teacher who does a good job of the key words, sometimes, you know what, when you walk out of your classroom and you look back at your key words at morning break and you go, you know what, I nailed it today.
Yeah.
I did a really good job and I got an echo of those key words back from the kids. I'm pretty happy with myself. And you walk out with a bit of head wobble.
Yeah.
And more teachers should enjoy a bit of head wobble because we work hard.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the key words can give you that. You look at your list of words and go, hey, we did all right today.
Yes.
I did all right today.
Yeah. I'm just going to, the whiteboard piece, I always love the whiteboard piece because it can just be so quick and slick and, straight up there. A lot of the teachers that I've been working with have used or are using, it might be an A3 size, one of those art folios, the spiral bound,
Yep.
that nice heavy paper in a book. A lot of teachers I've been working with have used those across lessons, it might be that they sort those words, but actually collecting words. So it might be keywords in maths or it might be in science. So yesterday a teacher, in their HAS topic, and they were looking at features of the playground. They went out to notice features of the playground and they were written down. And the words that would come up, and every time, kids love going back into, like they look into this book now. What words did we have? It becomes a reference, and I think there's two really, the thing that you said about, we as teachers can look back and go, look at the things that we talked about today. Look at the concepts that we covered. Look at the ideas that, were explored, through these keywords. Yeah. And then it's also great for the kids. I think they can do a good head wobble too sometimes, to go, oh my goodness, look at the things that we know, that we've explored, we've thought about, we know that we can talk about. And when they're in a book collected over a year, I just think they are extraordinary collections of, if ever we wanted to think about, well, what are we doing for our students with vocab? Well, right there, we have got this bank of things and it's not just about them being a bank of words that have just now been collected. We've been
context, yes.
Yes, yeah. So there's just a different richness to it that I think just really elevates students' use and understanding.
Yeah.
So,
well said.
Yeah. So, Rob, what else do I'm just going to go through because, I always sit here with articles around, whatever our topic is, and maybe we use this little checklist as our final little what haven't you had a chance to say yet that you want to say about keywords. But in the this article on teaching vocabulary, it talks about maintaining words. And I think that's something that that comes up as one of the, if we're teaching children about words, and if we're doing that in context, how do we, how we often hear ourselves say as teachers, if we've taught something out of context, we'll go, well, we taught it, but they're not using it.
Yeah. I look at the maintaining part. Is you've already mentioned a couple of those. You could keep a terrific one of the A3 size folios, or you could just have a massive maths word wall of all your topics, or they could be in the back of the kids' books as a glossary of terms.
Yes.
So there's ways, because really in the end you want to have one hell of a massive whiteboard if you reckon you're going to keep on. That is going to be the place where they live. They won't be able to live there. You'll need to take them off. And I think that they should be dynamic. Don't have just maths keywords. Use your keywords for your inquiry topic. You might have a lit focus.
Yes.
and might be doing science and generate science words.
Yes. Or you might be looking at fantasy,
Exactly.
within literacy. So what are the terms, what's the vocab that we use and we come up with for those. So, Rob, I'm just going to, on my little list here from this article, number 1 says, keep a record in some way, charts, class or student books, lists, so exactly what you've said,
Yeah.
Have you written this?
No.
But this is why I'm saying it will sum up with, and you say anything that's, that any of these prompt that you haven't yet said, because I think what you've done is absolutely bring, we'll look at this list at any time and go, yeah, I agree with all of that, but what you've done with the keywords work is really brought it all to life. So number 2 on this list is apply the words. Well, that's...
That's what you want in the reflection time. Initially, you want that during the unit of work that you're working on. You want to keep hearing the words. But your initial revision or echoing back of those words. And this is why it's so important to have a reflection time, not just sharing, but reflecting what you found out.
Yeah.
I'm loath to miss it. Occasionally I do because the lesson goes over time, or you stop for fruit, like the whole world stops for fruit. Like don't get between me and my apple, or I'll just bounce straight over you. Like I forgot about fruit time. So sometimes I lose my reflection time, but I'm loath to lose it because I want to give kids the opportunity to give me an echo. And so the reflection tasks I have for kids are always finite. They're not intricate, they're not complex.
No.
And my backup, as soon as I get any sook about it, I don't know what to write about, Mr. V. I just say, check out your keywords.
Yes.
And they go, oh, yeah. And so, and then the task is always pretty engaging, the reflection tasks I have. So that's the immediate way that you're going to use those words. I want to hear about what you found out.
Yeah. This one, is about getting students to notice those words. And of course, because you're doing this within the context of a lesson, they're going to notice the words or symbols because that's what the keywords is anchoring. So I've seen it there. I'm going to see it. I'm reading through my task or whatever it is that I'm doing to be able to see it in print. And because you're doing the keywords, as we say, as words and symbols, if I'm reading in maths, I'm seeing both of those things. So I'm getting, I've seen them before. Okay, now I see them again with meaning. Yeah.
There's a teacher did a great little revision activity. Look, it must have taken her ages, but she'd it was about for a month's worth of topic words. She'd printed them all. She typed them up, printed them all out, and printed out the matching symbols. And then she'd done a few sets of those. So the kids had, for one warm-up activity, their activity was to unjumble all the words and the symbols. So they had to match up. They had to match up the word with the symbol. So they had to find exponent and then find, an example of like 3 to the power of 2 or whatever what might have been. Mine square root was the word. Oh, what's the symbol that goes with it? Product. Oh, which one's that? Oh, that's the multiply symbol. So it was a great little task, and it was a summation of, she'd done it at the end of a month's worth of topic words. So it was brilliant. It was great. The kids had a ball. And it caused discussion. Do you remember when? I remember that's the same symbol as. And it was terrific.
Oh, great summation, as you say. That the routine of the everyday keywords piece, but then, okay, what is it that I'm absolutely solid in now? What do I recognise? What can I read and understand? Matching symbols and
it was a
the
good
written word. Really nice. Last one on the list is, and I think this is a great way for us to sum up where and how the keywords brings this to life, because, here's the other thing we'll often hear ourselves saying is, I've done the words, but, they're not, they're not using. And that little activity that teacher did is really just checking in on what children, what they have learned about that. But this last point says, make sure you continue to refer to and use the words over a long period of time. It is not suitable to forget about a word after the week it is learned. So that's exactly what the routine of keywords can ensure, that these words are, back on the table.
Yep, and especially if you're looking at integration of topics, like when you're doing time, you'll have an echo of your fraction words that you did, a month ago or whatever. When you're doing measurements, you'll have decimal. Decimal was a word that we had when we did our fractions, decimals, percentages unit. So let alone just revising topics that you've done, in term 1, you're bringing it back in term 2, or you're bringing it back in term 3. So there's, I think the way we teach, the teachers go about their business is actually with revision, and even if they're aware of where content topics integrate, they should ensure that there is opportunities to bring back words that have already been gained or developed or nurtured through other topics.
Yeah, very much so. That's such a great connection to, the work that, once again, it isn't within silos of, just now that these words are there across the life of, yes, this topic, but connect to other topics and connect to things outside of maths as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Rob, that might be where that could so neatly wrap up a bit of maths and literacy all connected there.
Yes, you bet, Sharon. Very complimentary.
Yeah. So thanks, Rob. We will put into the show notes, we'll link to your website, because we mentioned, or you've got a whole lot of examples of sharing activities, and, you've got a wealth of things on your website. Have you got something on there specifically about keywords? I can't remember.
I don't think so. No. They're just something I do and encourage others to do. But I should write something up, but I wouldn't promise it, because it probably won't happen.
Well, it's something that we hope listeners today can kind of visualise, and I think it's just been so fantastic for you to be able to describe, like you've built the picture of not only what it looks like, but how the impact that has for our students. So thank you so much for that, Rob. You're always so generous with your time and your expertise. And
my pleasure.
Yeah. So we thank you, and we thank everyone for joining us today. We've loved to see that so many of you have subscribed to our episodes, and from all corners of the world. And for those from all corners of the world who might not know what going straight to the pool room means.
Well, it's a lofty position of exaltation in Australian culture. If anything is worth its salt, it's going to a very special room. In our instance, it's called the pool room, where the pool table lives, and the bar.
Yes, and all things.
The gambling dogs and the.
So I'm glad I couldn't interrupt at the time to say it now. For those that don't know, but yes, now I'm glad we could just give a little bit of inside information onto that one. So
the castle, or the castle, if you are from South
That's
Australia.
it. Yes, yeah, exactly. I know. I almost needed to, give my version of pool rather than pool. All right, now we're really going into the, the sounds in language from state to state, from country to country, how they vary. So the Teacher's Toolkit podcast is all about giving you an insider's guide to top teaching ideas, tools, techniques in literacy, teaching and learning. And in fact, in teaching and learning. So please subscribe to our weekly newsletter via the website. You'll receive advance notice on blogs, podcast, events, and ways to contact us. Thank you, Rob, and all the best to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
And all the best to our listeners. Thanks, everyone.
Righto.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. To make sure you don't miss any literacy learning tips and insights, please subscribe to our show on your favourite podcast player. At Q Learning, our literacy specialists draw on over 30 years of teaching and international consulting experience to deliver world-class learning solutions. We equip, empower and support teachers to become their authentic selves. To find out about upcoming webinars and about how Q can help you and your school, visit qlearning.com.au. And you can get even more amazing teaching resources right now at teachific.com.au. Stay tuned.